Right. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. We have our last session of the week today. Right now, we're going to be getting in our lower body strength and conditioning. Although today we are switching it up. We're going to start off with our conditioning work, of course, after we get a nice solid warm-up in. And then we'll be finishing off with our strength, which is sometimes a nice way to do it, as that conditioning work can be a little bit more challenging when we do it at the end. So we're going to get it done first so we can have a nice strong conditioning session and then get our strength work in. Warm up. We're going to start off on the floor. We will need a couple specific things in terms of equipment, mostly just including our chair and or our bench. But before we get into that, you can come on down here onto the floor and join me laying down on your side. We're going to take our legs and weave that top leg underneath the bottom into this bow and arrow situation, which is what's up for this first movement. Stacking our arms, taking a big breath in, exhaling, crossing the body, trying to make contact with this hand, the shoulder on the floor, and then we'll reach up and over our head until we're back to center, doing 3 of these on each side. So exhaling, crossing over. If you are feeling quite tight, what you can do is undo your legs and just stack them instead of having that weave situation going on. And again, we'll need some space over here. If you don't quite have enough like me, we'll keep that arm bent. But if you do, then you can extend that arm out straight. 3 of them, and then we will switch sides. So as soon as you're done your 3 on that side, you can just flip over. I'm gonna flip on over this way so I can still look at you, and do the same thing on this other side. So whether you had the stacked legs, the weaved legs, whatever it was, we'll bring it on over here, and we will get 3 of these rotations now over on this side as well. So we'll get through these ones. As we finish them up, we are staying down here for the next one, which is going to be on our hands and knees, working with a bird dog. So we want to make sure we're in this all 4 position, shoulders on the wrists, hips on the knees. We will extend opposite arm and opposite leg, making sure there's nothing behind you or in front of you that you're going to kick over, and then alternate right side and left side, doing 20 reps total, not leaving the top until we're in control. So we don't want to have that wobbling situation, although you might feel a bit wobbly up here, but we want to control that. So holding it as long as we need to until we feel stable. Again, 20 reps total, alternating 10 on each side, thinking about extending that leg, kicking the heel way behind us, feeling that glute do some work. We're also getting some sneaky core activation work in here as well. 20 of them. Let's do it. 20 reps, and then we are up and off the floor for the next few. So we'll finish up those 20, and then we will come to the very front of our mat, arms down by our sides. We're going to step back into the lunge, and at the same time, do a turning in situation towards this front leg, standing back up to the top, and then once again, alternating our reps, right side and left side. 10 of these ones total, 5 on each side. We're trying to add that in together, where we step back as well as rotate through the torso, through the tummy, over to one side. 10 of them. There you go. A little coordination. Good morning. A little bit of balance. Also good morning. Finishing those ones up, the next one will stay in that more narrow stance. We want soft knees. Arms are going to go up and stay up above our head into our overhead hip hinge. So we're moving strictly through the hips. We should never see our hands, as they are going to stay lifted, straight arms above the head, feeling that nice opening stretch. This feels a good thing to do first thing in the morning. 10 reps total, where again, we're trying to drive the hips back, drive the hips forward, working through just the hips. 10 reps total. Finishing up those 10, we're going to actually keep our arms up there, so get comfortable, / a little uncomfortable up there, widening up our feet into our squat stance. The next one is going to be our overhead squats. So once again, we'll keep those arms lifted, strong, straight above the head, sitting down to that squat in that more wide stance with a slight angle out in our toes. 10 of them. Probably saw that coming. 10 reps total through these overhead squats. There we are. So we'll work through these ones, trying to get down to 90 degrees every rep that we have. 10 times. Okay, So we have another lunge variation coming up next, which is going to be our forward backward lunge. So you'll need some space both in front and behind you. We're going to step forward into a lunge and then use this leg to push ourselves all the way backwards into the lunge. That's 1. Every time we meet this reverse lunge, we're counting a rep. That's 2. We're doing 10 on this side. And then, of course, we'll have to switch sides and do 10 on the other side. As we go through this, we're trying to have our opposite arm, opposite leg bending together. So as we switch our arms, 10 of them. And then we will, again, do the same thing on the other side. So forward and then backward, 10 total. Only counting the back lunges, not the front ones. Those are just the part of the deal. All right. So we'll work through those ones. Our list here. A couple more left in our warm-up. For the next 2, we're headed back down onto the floor. So as you finish up those back fourth lunges, which again might take you a little bit to get through, you can come on down, join me on the floor in our hip bridging position here. So we want our knees bent up, feet flat on the floor, arms down by our sides. We should be able to feel the heels with a reach, but not without the reach. Low back is going to be pushed into the floor. We're going to drive the hips all the way up to the very top. Once we get here, we'll lift up one leg, lower the hips down, touching our lower back, not our butt, and then drive back up to the top. Foot goes down, other one comes up. Hips down, once again with the low back. Exhale, driving back up, that's 2. We're doing 10 of these total. So in this one, we're looking for that hip and core stability. We want to make sure that when we are switching legs, we're not dropping or tilting our hips, but rather keeping them as strong and as stable as possible. 10 total, 5 on each side for this one here. Again, you'll feel, of course, probably don't need to say this, but your glutes, as we are getting lots of solid activation work happening back there. So we'll go through those ones. Do not get too keen on standing up, as we have one more down here. Once again, it's for the glutes, a little bit of work going to happen in the hamstrings. We're going to stay in this bridge position, push the hips up to the very top, lift up onto our heels. So I've lifted my toes off the floor. And then we're going to take little steps all the way out as far as we can, potentially even getting our legs straight. And then we'll walk back in the whole entire time. We're pushing our hips up as high as we can. Now, the further out you walk, the more challenging that this one's going to be. But in this one, we want to feel like we're in control over everything. So don't feel like you have to go all the way out here. If you feel like it's too much tension on your hamstrings, on the back of the legs, we'll just work with a range that we feel comfortable with, that we can control. In and out is 1. We're going to do 5 times. So you probably have a couple more to go on that one there. And then, we should be warm, surprising from those 2 floor ones. We are going to stand back up to the top for our last one here, which is back in a squat stance. So once again, we're in that little bit wider than hip width apart, angle out on the toes, sitting down to a squat, grabbing on as close to our heels as we can, straightening the legs, bending the legs, and then standing and reaching the arms up. That's 1. We're going to finish off our warm-up with 10 of these total. So how much you straighten your legs will depend on you, your body, how you're feeling right now, this hour of the day. We don't necessarily need to get our legs completely straight, but we do want to straighten them enough that we feel that stretch. We can also do this not sitting so low. Those of us who have sensitive knees may feel a little bit better not getting all the way down to the bottom. So again, we'll just work with however we're feeling right now. 10 reps. And then we are going to get you started on little conditioning circuit that we are working through. So once you're finished up there, if you'd like, you can grab yourself some water, walk it off, get yourself set up for this first part, which is our conditioning work, which actually does not need any equipment. We are going body weight for this work. The only thing that you will need is your supportive footwear, especially if you're going to be joining me on the jumping high impact stuff, as well as your mat, as we are going to use it, being down on it for some, and then just using the length of it for others. So we have a conditioning circuit that we are going to do off of a timer, as usual, working with 60 seconds on, 20 seconds off. So we're going to take 20 seconds of rest between these movements. There are 3 of them. The first one that we're doing is our lateral bounds. So we're not starting yet. If you like to practice these ones, just kind of get a feel for them, you can. We're going through opposite arm, opposite leg, reaching across, trying to bound and catch ourselves in that slight lunging position. So I'm not quite all the way down, but I do want to slightly bend my knee, feeling my glute, push myself off to the other side. We'll be doing that for a minute, okay? We know those ones. We've been there before. Then we will have 20 seconds of rest before we go into our second one, which is going to be down on the floor. Oh, yeah. Off knee, opposite arm, opposite leg lifts. So very similar to that bird dog, except we are hovering off the floor, which we know is pretty dang hard, especially when we do it for a minute. So that's what's up for the second one. Third one is up and at 'em, doing our split jumps, which are nice. They're a little bit more mindless. You can really pace yourself. You can work with a lateral side-to-side motion, stay in place, pretty much do whatever you want to do for that 60 seconds of split jumps. And then we shall repeat. We're doing 4 rounds, okay? And then we'll get started on our strength work and be done with the conditioning, which is good news. So right now I want you to get yourself set up with that space because you need some space for this one. Timer is set. Are you ready? Starting off with that very first one that we're doing, which was our lateral bounds in 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and let's go. My phone was on silent, but there was a starting beep. Let's do it. So we're working with our first set, trying to pace ourselves, doing something that, again, we can maintain for this entire minute. For those of us who don't jump, we're simply going to take a wide step and tap that foot out to opposite side, and using our arms with those legs through the entire 60 seconds, in which you have 30 seconds left up. So halfway there. Oh yeah, it's the first set. So in theory, it is our strongest, freshest set. So we'll try to set the standard on what we will be doing on our next 3 rounds. Of course, the more powerful, the more explosive you are as you jump and bound to the side, the more challenging it's going to be. And on the flip side, if you kind of take it a little easier, you feel like you're not going to make it, I would highly prefer that over you stopping, okay? But you can't stop in 3, 2, and rest. All right, so that was our first one. Headed down onto the floor for the second one, to those off-knee bird dogs. So take some deep breaths. Again, we do have that full 20 seconds, which is pretty much already done. So get down here if you're not already. Hands and knees, and we want to be stacked up like we were in the warm-up, popping off the knees, and then we have opposite arm and opposite leg lifting away from that center point. Now this one again, hopefully I always make this stuff look easy, but this is not easy. This is a very challenging exercise. So if you feel like you are not going to make it, you can work with just the arms or just the legs. You don't have to do both of them together, although that is what I prefer. But I understand that we might not be able to maintain that for 60. So if you need to, you can work with just those legs, keeping your arms planted on the floor, because you have 20 seconds left. Okay, so see if you can keep going with whatever you're doing, getting breathing through these, not holding our breath. 10 seconds left. You've got this. There you go. Okay, strong finish. 3, 2, 1, and woo! All right, so we're standing up off the floor for the last one, which is our split jumps. Now with these ones, again, we want that sort of split, narrow stance in our feet, setting up our arm with our legs. With that leg is forward, we want opposite arm bent up, so that when we switch, we're going to switch our arms with our legs. And we know that if we do it with straight arms, it takes a little bit more energy than with the bent arms. But of course, simply just working faster, having a faster pace, moving your feet quicker, that is the way for you to get the most out of this one. Having that lateral movement involved is just little way to keep it a bit more interesting than staying in place. You could also go forward and backward. If you have lots of space that you're working with right now, you could do a little square, something like that. But the most important thing, again, is that you are moving this entire amount of time, which we have 20 seconds left of. For my low impact workers, we're going to step over and back across a line or an imaginary line if you don't have one, rather than jumping our feet like that. Okay, 10 seconds left. Let's get it. Let's get it. Come on, push yourself. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Okay, so that was our first set, my friends. We are going to do it again 3 more times when we are done the conditioning, the jumping around work. Yay. But first, we got to get through 3 more sets, starting again with our lateral bounds in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. So we're trying to, again, land soft, catch ourselves in that slight lunging position. Although the lower that you catch yourself, the lower you get into that sort of single leg squat or lunge, the harder it's going to be, the more leg muscles we're going to involve. So if, again, you are looking to challenge yourself, if you found maybe that first set was a little on the easy side, which is not many of us, but maybe some of us, then what you can do is think about sitting lower into that lunge and catching lower in the lunge, rather than sort of sitting a bit higher. 25 seconds left. Let's go. Again, with this one, the leg burn is sort of part of the deal, so you are definitely going to be feeling that going on. But that is the burn that we can work through. I know we don't like hearing that, but that is true. 10 seconds left. Let's try to push through it. Here you go. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Very nice work. Okay, on to the second one, the floor. It always sounds like it's going to be easier when it's on the floor, but especially in this case, it is not. Not only do we have, of course, our cardio working, our conditioning, but we also are getting some work in our legs, specifically in our quads, as well as our core. So it's sort of a full body situation here. So here we go. Working with that second set. Again, trying our best to not push our hips off the floor too high. We want to keep the knees just hovering above that starting point. Hands on the knees. Bird dog position. Okay, 30 seconds left here. And when in doubt, if you can't lift the arms and legs, or even the legs or just the arms, just hold that off knee position. And that is what we're going to do to finish this off, rather than dropping down onto the floor. You don't want that happening at all. Only when you're done in 15 seconds. So keep breathing through this. Again, exhaling as we lift up those limbs. Trying to keep our core and our hips as stable as possible so that they're not shifting, tilting side to side. And awesome job. Okay, so stand it up. On to the last one, our split jumps. Again, for 60 seconds, which is going to take us halfway through this circuit. So we're getting there. All right, so we'll set up our feet, opposite arms, ready, and let's go. 60 seconds. Again, trying to think about getting more of these hops in. Rather than traveling a big distance and covering a lot of ground, we want more of them in to get that same distance. So if you're using the length of your mat, take your time and add lots of those split jumps in. And you probably can already presume how that's going to make you feel. But that's what we're going for here, is that uncomfortable feeling that I need to stop feeling, but you keep going. 30 seconds left. There you go. Halfway there. And of course, we are breathing, having that breath flowing in and out, not holding our breath, and that does not help us at all. Let's get it. 15 seconds left. There it is. Keep those arms moving just as fast as those feet. Pushing ourselves. 5, 4, 3, 2, and time. All right. Nice work. Resting, but really not for that long, as we are going to be going into our third set. And back to those lateral bounds. So grabbing a very quick sip of water, getting ready to start, and let's go. On to that third set. Again, trying to breathe through these. We have that slight forward lean, which is going to help us stay in that athletic position. The bent knees with the hips back. There you go. And again, we are, again, don't need to tell you this, but we're going to start to feel more tired as we go through these sets, including right now. So we will really have to push ourselves, even just to maintain that same pace that we had in the first 2 rounds. 25 seconds left. We need to get there, hold it there, keep it there for this third set. Here we go. So do these nice big jumps to the side, trying to be powerful, catching yourself soft, trying to make little to no noise on your landings. 3, 2, 1, and time. All right. All right. Onto the floor for the next one, which is those off knee bird dogs. So again, between these sets, within this 20 seconds, which is really not a lot of time, I know this. We are trying to take those deep breaths overall, calm ourselves down, and hustle to get started. Here we go, on to our third set of our off-knee bird dogs. Now with these ones here, another little trick that you can use if you are really struggling with them is having a wider stance. So widening up your hands and your feet. For most of us, it's going to make things feel a little bit more manageable rather than having the hands and feet close set together. 30 seconds left. We're halfway through this one. Second last time you're here, so that is great news, because again, I know how you're feeling. Not very good, but you're going to feel amazing if you push yourself now in your last round when you are done this circuit. 15 seconds left. You just think. Feels a lot better doing it now than after we do all of that strength stuff, which is on the menu up next. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and up you get. On to our final one of the third set, our split jumps. Woo! All right, so again, taking deep breaths. Water. Getting ready to start in 5 seconds. Third round of the split jumps. 3, 2, 1, and let's do it. And trying to move quickly, efficiently, having control over everything that's happening in your body, from your arms to your legs. We're not just flopping and flailing around. We want to make sure everything moves at once. And we're sticking the landing, sticking those jumps every single time we have them. Even with you feeling quite fatigued, tired, let's try to lock it in here. Finish strong, just as strong as we were in that first set. 30 seconds left. So pacing ourselves and pushing ourselves, because you know the harder you push yourself, the more you give us now in the circuit, the more you are going to get out of this one. There it is, 15 seconds left. And breathing. There you go. Okay, so try to get there and back one more time. Hustling, 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and time. Okay, here we are. The moment you've been waiting for, almost actually. We have one more set, so we have to do each of these one more time. The bounds, the bird dogs, the split jumps, and then we are going to be slowing her down. Much less jumping around. No jumping around, actually. All right, let's go. On to our final set of our lateral bounds. And trying our best to keep our hips, our shoulders facing forward so that we are traveling sideways and not sort of accidentally leaning and turning to each side. And again, having that control, that same control that you had in those split jumps in the last round, you want to make sure that everything's happening for a reason here. 30 seconds left. Again, maybe we're trying to add a little bit more than we had on those first 3 sets, which might just end up you doing the same thing so you feel a little bit more tired. But this is your last chance with these ones. So we'll see if we can really get the most out of this. 15 more seconds left. Trying to exhale every time we bound so we can have a nice, strong, far jump in our feet. Let's go. 3, 2, 1, and done those ones. Yes. All right, onto the floor. 15 seconds actually. Take a couple deep breaths. We're going to get down there and finish off with our final set of these up, knee, bird dogs. Potentially the hardest one. I mean, I think so. Everyone's different. Starting in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. So again, hovering off the floor, trying to tap into that core and hip stability. So every time you lift up that arm and leg, before we do, we want to brace our core so that we're not having that tilting, that shifting. 45 seconds for you to get that going on. And again, this is your last set of this one. So that is great news. There you go. So breathing through and trying to extend through the arm and the leg, creating that nice straight line in the body. 25 seconds left. There you go. And you can do a little check. Make sure that your knees are, again, staying nice and close to the floor. There it is. 10 seconds left. Okay, one more. 3, 2, 1, and done those ones. All right, come on up here. Woo! I know, that one is no joke. We are gonna finish you off with the split jumps, which again are, I don't want to say easier, but maybe a bit more manageable. You can kind of pace yourself a bit easier. Ready? And ready or not, let's go through our final set. So again, this is the last chance of the conditioning work for today for the week. So we're trying to push ourselves so hard that we actually feel like we need to stop. We're going to have a couple minutes of rest after this circuit, after this 45 seconds is up. So you'll have some time to sort of cool down, calm down after this, which means we want to get you up, heart rate up, body working as fast as we can here for 30 more seconds. So this is it. Your last opportunity with these ones, whether you like it or not. 20 seconds. Okay, let's go. Okay, arms and legs working together. Taking us to the finish line of our conditioning circuit. Less than 10 seconds. Let's do this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and time. Okay. We are resting. So I've put a timer on for 2 minutes over here. Where all we're going to do is rest because we probably definitely feel like we need that a lot. So what I want you to do right now is keep moving. Do a few laps around your mat, around your room, around your house, whatever it is. You bring your water bottle with you. Take some sips of that. More importantly, you're taking those deep breaths. Trying to get that air in overall, trying to calm our body down, calm our cardio system down. So we're not doing anything else for another minute and a half except just resting, okay? So that's all I want you to think about. Although we can start to think about sort of getting set up for these strength movements. Once again, we will be using our infamous chair, in my case, or maybe you have an actual bench, or maybe you're using an ottoman or your couch or something along those lines. We are going to incorporate this in for our first 2 supersets that we are doing. And we'll want to make sure that it's in a very stable position. So what I'm going to do is actually move this guy over here and put it against the wall here so that it doesn't sort of slide out because it is quite a light decorative chair. And if I didn't have it against the wall for this one, it might sort of push out, which wouldn't be the safest thing in the world. So that is what we can start to think about as we sort of cool down, calm down, and keep it moving around, keep taking your sips of water. The other thing that we will need is our dumbbells. And then, of course, if you do not have dumbbells, then you have your loop bands. You don't necessarily need them both. I'm just going to use one of those. And we're going to get you started on our strength stuff, which is always a little nicer than the conditioning, I think, for most of us, unless you really like the cardio work. Starting off with a relatively new movement. The first one that we're doing, actually, we have been here, done that before. We're going to be working with our Staggered Stance single leg deadlift. So this one is not new to us, but the second one we're doing involving a chair will be. So I'm going to talk about the second one first. So again, you can sort of set up for it. If you want to come down here and practice with me, you can try this one out. We're doing a long leg hip bridge. So rather than having my feet and knees bent, I'm going to have my legs straight like this. What this is going to do is help us target more through the hamstrings. Although we are going to feel our glutes a lot, we're going to be working with this long leg. Now, the longer we make our legs, so right now I have kind of have half my calf on that bench or chair. If I move away, so just my heels are on the chair, it's going to feel a lot more challenging back there. The other thing that we could potentially do is add those weights to our hips, our dumbbells on here. But for most of us, we are probably not going to need to do this. I need you guys to trust me on this one, because this one is a sneaky burner. It's a lot harder than it looks. So this is going to be our second one that we're doing, the hips up, the hips down. If you don't have this chair or bench, what you're going to do is do the same thing on the floor. You'll have to have your knees bent a little bit, but we'll be in this sort of long lever bridge rather than having our feet in like this, okay? So that's the second one. We'll be back there. First one that we're going to do is our staggered stance deadlift. So I'm going to be using both of my dumbbells, one in each hand. Narrow stance in the feet. We're going to take the ball of one foot, put it beside the heel of the other, soft knee, and then we'll hinge the hips back and pull the hips forward, working through the single leg deadlift with this little kickstand of support. We can start our first set. We're doing 12 to 15, so you have a range. You can stop at 12, or you can go up to 15 if you have lighter weights. Of course, we're going to want to challenge ourselves and maybe try to do that 15. But if you are working with something, on the heavier side, or just that feels challenging for 12, then 12 is a good place to be. What's very important in this one is that we're keeping this a single leg exercise. So we want to make sure that this leg, this kickstand leg, is not doing any work. We're keeping all of the weight in that standing leg with the soft knee and trying to hinge the hips back. So we're pushing the hips back, pulling the hips forward, 12 to 15, keeping it even on both sides. That is very crucial. We're not doing 12 on one side, 15 on the other. Whatever you do on the first side, we are going to take onto the second side. So you can start your first set. We will be doing 3 sets total, so you'll have 2 more opportunities to do this one here. And we're always going to have that 12 to 15 range. So if you can finish your first set, maybe you only do 12, you can add in those next 3 reps if you like on the next set, or stick with your 12. It's completely up to you. So that's our first one. Now again, this one is another one, the staggered stance. We're going to feel the back of the leg, the hamstring, as well as our glutes. As long as we're making sure that we're sticking out our butt, pulling it forward, and not moving through our lower back. So that's our first one. Once you're finished that on both sides, you can come on down onto the floor here, set up for this long leg hip bridge. So again, we want straight legs, slightly soft knees so that our knees aren't completely locked out. Have your hands on the floor, and then we drive up to the top. Now this range of motion is not very big. We want to come down, make sure our lower back is being pushed into the floor, not our butt. So you should feel your back touching, not your glutes, and then we'll push up to the top, keeping that same sort of tight core position as we have on the floor here. And we're doing 15, okay? No range here, 15 total. Now the only thing that might feel a little uncomfortable in this one, depending on where you are, is if you're putting too much pressure sort of on the back of your heel. So if you're feeling a little bit of pain back there or tension, what you could do is try to move down a bit so you're sort of on the back of your shoe, or move up a bit so we're a bit closer on the back of the calf, okay? So we can feel that work happening in the back of the legs, in the back of the hips, 15 reps total. And again, we're looking for that hamstring work and feeling, which you're probably feeling right now through those 15 reps. Once you're finished this, we're going to go right into our second and third set. So we can finish up that set of those bridges, and then get on up here, going through our second round of that staggered stance deadlift. So once again, we want to make sure that we're driving the hips back, just like we practiced in the warm-up in those hinges. rather than just bending down. You don't want this rounding back situation. That's going to put tension on our low back, which we are not going for here. We're trying to work the legs, the hips. So we'll push back, pull forward, make sure that that is the motion that's leading the way on all of our 12 to 15 reps that we're doing. There we go. All right, let's get it. Now we talked about the dumbbell, although again, if you are using bands, we're going to loop that band around that standing working leg. And then again, we'll have that kickstand, essentially just assisting our balance. This one is our single leg deadlift that we know and love, except there's no balance involved. So we have that little staggered stance on the floor. There it is. So we'll channel that movement. Single leg, 12 to 15. Second set of 3. So we have this one, bridge, and then one more set of both of these. There you are. All right. So we'll take our sweet time, as we know that the slower we do our strength movements, as opposed to our conditioning, and it's nice that it's done and over with. But the slower we go on these ones, the more time under tension our muscles are going to be. This deadlift as well as this hip bridge. So if you are looking to increase the intensity, make it more challenging for yourself, if you slow the heck down, that is going to overall just make you feel these things a lot more. In these cases, in your hamstrings, your booty on this set, and then again you have one more set to go through your final round. Okay, so we'll work through this straight leg hip bridge, which hopefully you're feeling now is a lot harder than it looks. Okay, and we're trying to avoid that painful feeling sort of in that Achilles, back of the heel area. So feel free to just play around with how close or how far you are. You don't have to have that pain in order to get the benefit out of this one, as we can have more of our leg on there and still really feel this back there. Okay, so we have one more final set, about 3 minutes for you to finish it up before we should be starting the next superset that we're going through, which we have 2 more supersets, and then we're done. So we will again take our sweet time, because 3 minutes is plenty of time to get in a set of both of these. So once again, we're trying to shift all of the weight onto that standing leg. You can almost lift this one up when you're doing this exercise, except of course it is going to stay on the floor for those balance assisting reasons. But if you're not really feeling this in the standing leg, then put more weight in that standing leg so that you can get more out of this one. Especially because this is our last set, last round. Let's do it. For the hamstrings, for the glutes. There you are. Okay, so finish up strong here. Take it about, again, 1.5 minutes left for you to get your 12 to 15, and then your 15, no options on that straight leg bridge. There you go. Alrighty, this is it. We'll take 1 more minute here to finish her up before we start talking about the next part. Okay, so as we are finishing up, if you are done a little bit early, you can just grab some water, check it out, think about all the stuff you're feeling, hopefully in the back of your legs, as that is what we were going for, the hamstrings, the glutes. For the next part, we are once again going to be using this here chair, your dumbbells, And we will also have a banded option coming in as well. So if you do have these loop bands, then you can keep them close, as we will potentially want to use them for the second exercise that we're going through. So we'll finish up those straight leg bridges, and then we are going into another hip thrust variation, but this is a single leg hip thrust. We're going to be sitting on our chair, lowering ourselves down so that our upper back is on that bench or chair, having a very narrow set stance in our feet, lifting up one leg so it's up at this 90 degrees, and working with our single leg hip bridge. We're holding the top position for 1-2 seconds, doing 10 reps total, 1-2. So we're going through this one, body weight, unless you want to really challenge yourself, in which case you can hold a dumbbell on your hips to add that weight directly to that glute. But we know, most of us know, the single leg hip thrust is a pretty challenging exercise right off the bat, especially because every time we push up, we're going to stay there for 2 seconds. So let's get started on our first set of this one here. Again, we want our feet almost together. Make sure that the ribs and pelvis are doing a little bit of a crunch so that we're not flaring out the ribs. We want to tuck our chin in and look down at our knees the entire time. 1, 2 at the top. We're not holding down here. We want to make sure we're all the way up. So you're feeling that squeeze, that contraction. That's what we hold for the 2 seconds. Again, for those of us who don't have a chair, a bench, a couch that we want to put a sweaty back on, what you're going to do instead is work off of the floor and then just hold for your 1-2. Same rules apply if you want to add in that potential weight on your hips. But I feel like lots of us are going to be good to go without the weight, as long as we can get all the way up and hold that nice strong 2 seconds, 10 and 10. So that's our first one, and that's our first set. Once you're finished, you can stand up. Again, we have this option with the band. If you want to add your band around your knees, we're doing a front-loaded squat. So I'm adding this band here because my weights that I have are not the heaviest things in the world. So I know that this is not going to be that challenging. This band is going to add another level of intensity to this, as the band wants my knees in. So I have to really work it in my hips and my glutes to keep my knees apart. We'll be front loading our weights. So I'm going to take my dumbbells and hold them in front of me here, working with a pulsing squat, 1/4 up, back down, and then we stand up to the top. So we sit down to 90 degrees, up 1/4, back into the squat, all the way up. That's 2 reps for me. We're doing 10 of these total. So again, with this band, we have to really make sure that we're pushing our knees up to the side. And it's optional. We don't have to use it. And if you don't have dumbbells, you're probably going to want to use it. So you can feel a bit more challenged by this one. But if you do have a set of dumbbells or one singular dumbbell that's pretty heavy, then you don't have to use this if you don't want to. But what you do have to do is get in that little pulse at the bottom. So again, we want to go down, come up, back down, and then all the way up. And I don't really like the word pulse, because that implies a little bit of more of like a bouncing situation. We want to be in control. So we sit down, come up 1/4, back down, and then all the way up. It's 1 rep, okay? You're doing 10. And then we repeat. For this one, we're going to be working with 3 more sets. So we got to get to work so that we can get this stuff done. Again, limiting our rest as much as we can between these 2. So we'll finish up these squats and then unband, if you have the band on, of course, getting going right away onto our second set of this single leg hip thrust. Okay, little to no rest in between. Trying to hustle and getting set up for it and starting on it and driving the knee up. 1-2 seconds at the top, working with 10 reps on each side. And this one, and I don't need to really tell you, but is 100% glute work. So we should feel this in the back of the hips, especially on that 2-second hold that we have at the top. There you go. So we'll try to be as honest as possible with that 2 seconds. It's not like a 1-2. It is a 1-2, and then you leave. okay? And we'll try to keep that even on all of our 10 reps. Oftentimes it can be kind of, normal to have that happening on the first maybe 3 or 5 reps, and then we get tired and we start to have that faster count. But you already know you're going to get a lot more out of this if you stay consistent and even on all of your 10 reps with that 2-second hold that we don't really want to do because it burns, but that is why we're all here. So we can do this burning stuff together and actually do it and do it right. Okay, so we'll get the second set done. And then again, we will go right into our second round of our front loaded squats. Where we sit down, quarter up, back down, and then standing all the way up tall. 10 times. There we go. Okay. So we'll work through our second set, trying to be as controlled as possible with or without the band. We want to make sure that we're pushing our knees out. We have that slight angle out in our squat stance in our toes, and that is to help promote the knees to go out. We don't want the knees in here, and if our feet are straight, then the knees sort of naturally come in. So if we add that angle out to our toes, then we'll feel a bit more inclined to push the knees out, which is going to give us a bit more work down the outsides of our legs, outsides of our hips. And I want that for you now in this set and in your next 2. So we have 2 more rounds after this. There you go. Okay, so 10 reps. And then we have 2 more rounds. And our last part, I don't want to say is short and sweet, it's more short and spicy. We'll talk about it when we get there. It's on a timer though, the last final part, which is nice, no counting involved. Just the burning work that's going to take us to the finish line. And of course, the 2 more sets of this stuff here. Okay. So we'll get going again right away on our third set. I know your legs are, oh yeah, I'm feeling a lot of that burning, that lactic acid sensation, especially in your glutes, probably in your quads a lot from those squats. But that is why we're limiting the rest, so that it sort of builds up, gets worse and worse every set. If that's how you're feeling, you're doing a good job. And you have 2 more sets to create that feeling for yourself, which is why we want to hustle and getting going on our third set, and then of course, our last set. It's always nice to know we're doing the last one soon. Okay, so we do have about 4 minutes, which is pretty much just enough time to get in our last couple sets. So if you've not started set number 3, then you need to get to work so that we have time to get these last 2 done. That being said, I do not want you to rush, okay? Especially those pauses, those pulses that we're doing. We want to take our time with them. So that way we can, and not rush, get the most out of the strength movements. As much as we want to rush, I know, especially when it's this kind of stuff with the pauses and all that, and the pulses. So we'll finish strong, third set. Okay, getting these pulsing squats, and then we have 1 more round to go through. All right. So we'll band up if that is what we are choosing to do. Start that third set of those squats. 10 times. It's been a lot of high counting, 15 reps. It's nice to do the 10. And then we'll take our time, try to make all of our 10 as even, as consistent as possible. Okay, on this set and on our last one. That is what's coming up next. 2 minutes for you to finish this one up and finish up your last one as well. As you are finishing up these last couple sets, I am going to set our timer for our last part, which again is our short, spicy legs. There we go. Okay. Yeah, it takes us 6 last part. So burner, 6-minute burner to finish us off, the finish line. So technically we have, again, only about 4 minutes until we really should be starting. But we will start in about 2 minutes, so that way we have a little bit of time at the end. A couple quick stretches to go through. Okay, so we're getting through this final set of the hip thrusts. Paused hip thrust, 10 and 10. Okay. So again, we'll give you about a minute and a half here to finish up. As we are finishing up, what we need for the last part is our bands, preferably, if you have them. I'm going to be using 2 of these bands. That's pretty much it. That and some space. So as you are finishing up your last set of the hip thrusts, of the squats, we can put everything else away, including our dumbbells, and in my case, including this chair, so that I have a little bit more room on the floor. So I'm going to go ahead, move this guy out of the way, move my dumbbells out of the way, keep the bands, keep the mat, keep the enthusiasm that we're going to need to get through this last 6-minute burner that we are working through. Okay, so as we finish up, and we'll make sure that we do keep these bands close. For those of us who don't have these bands, you can follow along doing all this stuff without the bands, but if you have these, we want to use them. I have this heavy strength and this medium strength. What I'm going to do is take the heavy strength and put it around my upper knees. So I want it just above my knees. My medium strength, or if you have like a light strength one, can go around your heels, down around the bottom, like this. What we're going to be working through is our lateral side steps. We're on a timer, so we have 60 seconds for this first move, and then we're going into wall sit variation, which is going to be another 60 seconds. The kicker here is that there is no rest, literally 0 time between the switching of these 2 movements. So again, we're going to have this banded situation, preferably soft knees, hinging the hips back, so we're on one side of the mat. We'll be stepping side, hip width apart, wider than hip width, not allowing the feet to come closer, back and forth for 60 seconds, and then we'll go right into a wall sit variation, keeping on these bands, sitting down here, working with these abductions for the next 60 seconds. And then back to these ones, wall sit, 3 rounds total, 1 minute on each, and we are done, okay? So come on over to one side of your mat, starting in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. So again, we want to hinge the hips back. So we're in this sort of forward, athletic, bent over position. Push the knees out, and again, not allow the feet to come any closer than hip width apart. We're working with these side steps, trying to avoid that sort of penguin shifting that wants to happen in our body. We want to keep everything as tight and as still as possible so that we're not rocking side to side, which, yes, will make everything feel a lot more challenging. It's part of the deal. 30 seconds left. So again, we're trying our best to keep our hips back behind us. We want a little bit of bend in our knees, but we're not doing any sort of squatting motions. And breathing. This one burns. I know this. 15 seconds left. Keeping moving side to side. There you go. Okay, and remembering that we have to hustle right into that wall sit. For those of us who don't have a wall, we're just going to hold a squat. 3, 2, and let's go. Wherever you are, find your wall, and then we're going to do our abductions. So same thing, we don't want to allow our knees to come closer. We're only going wider than the starting point. You can have your hands on the wall, have your hands in front of you. You can do whatever you want to help distract yourself for this minute. Okay, and again, for those of us who don't have a wall that we want to put a sweaty back on, we can just hold a squat. and do these same opening abductions. 30 seconds left. Okay, you're probably starting to feel how this is really gonna burn. We have to do 2 more rounds, and we are done. Okay, so keep breathing through this. 20 seconds left. When in doubt, just hold the wall sit, hold the squat. You can forget the abductions if you feel like you're not going to make it. Maybe add them again in next round if you can. 10 seconds left. Okay, so we're breathing. 5, 4, 3, 2, woo! All right, and right away, my friends, let's go. Right into our second set. And we're doing 3. So we have this one and 1 more. I know how you feel. Okay, I know this. That's why we're here and doing this together. Breathing through this, trying to work through this absolute burn that is happening in our hips. If you're feeling that, you're doing a great job, okay? So we'll just keep working through this. If you feel like you are, again, not going to make it in these side steps, you can always move this band down a little bit lower, or if you need to, you could potentially just take off the second band and just have one. It can either be this one or the one around your heels, but, you know, I want you to try to keep working with this, okay? Try to breathe through this. This is the burn that we can work through, whether we like it or not. 10 seconds left, and we have to breathe, because that's pretty much the only thing that's going to help us out right now. 3, 2, and time. Okay, wall sit right away. Let's go. Right into it. Second set. And watching your knees, making sure they're not coming in. They're only going out. I know. Okay, and when in doubt, we just hold that wall sit. Hold that squat. Hang out there. I say that like it's just no problem. It's so comfortable. It's not, okay? You're going to feel like you're burning. You're going to feel uncomfortable. That's why we're doing this the way we are with no rest in between, so that you can really get a nice glute hip burn, booty pump going on here. 20 seconds left. Probably going to be thinking about me a little bit this weekend when you're doing all your other stuff, because your ass is going to be hurting. 15 seconds left. But I mean, most of us can probably agree that we like that feeling to a certain extent. I mean, not when we can't actually do our daily activities. 3, 2, 1, and get up, and last set, my friends, let's go. This is it, our final round. Okay, the one that we don't want to do, our body doesn't want to do, our mind doesn't want to do, but we are here, and we are doing it, okay, and this is it. So once again, we can keep our arms in front of us. Make sure that you're sort of keeping still and we're not having too much tilting and shifting, especially now. So we're starting to get very tired, very worked in the hips. This is it. 30 seconds left on these side steps. I know. You got this though, okay? So just breathe through them. And if you really feel like you're not going to make it, then just take a little bit more time between your steps. Just kind of hold it here. Step, hold it. Step. You don't have to go fast, okay? But you do have to stay with us. You got this. 10 seconds left. Right here, right now, in the side steps. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And last one, the wall sit. Potentially the hardest one. I mean, the side steps, they're pretty dang hard. The burning hips, but these ones here, we have not only the opening of the abductions, but your quads. Woo! They're gonna burn simply just from hanging out in this wall sit, which for most of us is pretty challenging for 1 minute just holding alone, let alone with that opening and closing, the squat hold, whatever you're choosing to do. 30 more seconds, and then you can take these bands off, slingshot them away. Maybe don't do that, you won't lose them. 25 seconds left though, before we can take these guys off, okay? So breathe through this, stay with us. And the stronger you can finish right now, the better you're gonna feel, just knowing that you gave it all that you got, okay? 10 seconds. Here we go, don't give up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and feel yourself off that wall. Take these dang bands off. Woo! Which feels like the hardest part right now. Oh, yes. Okay, we are finished. Might want to walk that one off or waddle that one off because it burns. All right, so we do have a couple stretches that I would really like you to do, so much that we're going to do them together. First one is for your glutes. We're going to lay on our back, bend up that knee. You're really going to want to do this one right now after that little circuit. And then we'll reach through and pull that leg through, holding this here. We're going to spend 30 seconds only on each side, but as per usual with these stretches, if you hold it a little longer, even upward to 60 seconds, and if you complete multiple sets, so if you were to do 2 or 3 rounds, you're going to get a little bit more stretching benefit out of this one. We're just doing this one set together so that you can get it in before you go on and get on with your day or start your day wherever you are going, whatever you're doing, working. But this one's, again, going to help us loosen up that burning feeling that we created in our hips on that last circuit that we did. So that's 30 seconds. We'll release this side, and we'll switch, and we'll pull in the other side here. So we're just going to do 2 different stretches together. And this is the first one. And it feels so good. We did a lot of work for the back of the hips, the sides of the hips as well. This is going to loosen that up. So if you are feeling really tight and you want to prevent too much soreness over the weekend, then get back in here, do another set. You can hold it a little longer. You can set a timer, look at a clock in your house, whatever it is, and hold it for upward to a minute. So that's our first one. Our second one that we're going to do is sitting up in this position here with our straight legs and just walking our hands, and foot's a little bit cut off, but walking our hands in between our feet. This is going to give us a stretch down our calves, as long as we make sure to point our feet up towards our face. Back of our legs are hamstrings, as well as through our lower back, because we want to allow our back to round. And again, we'll hold this here for 30 seconds. But same thing, if you want to come back and do another round of the glute one, back up here for this hamstring, back of the legs, calves, you can hold it for a little longer and upward to 1 minute and do maybe 2 or 3 more rounds of it. Any other stretches as well that you would like to throw in right now? If you are feeling like you want a bit more stretching, now would be the time to shine, because your body is ready to be stretched. We did all the stuff to dynamically warm it up. We did all our strength, our conditioning work. And so now would be a great time to add in those stretches, including maybe a hip flexor stretch if you're feeling kind of tight in the hips or tight in the lower back. We can do our half kneeling hip flexor stretch. You can even go back and do that bow and arrow that we did at the very beginning, where we were laying on our side and opening up over to one side. But you, my friends, are done with me on this beautiful Friday. It's so nice outside. Hopefully you guys can get out after you're done whatever you need to do today and enjoy the sun. Thank you so much for another awesome week of training. Hopefully you feel good. I know how you're probably feeling now, burning after that one. I will catch you guys next week, and I hope you enjoy your weekend. Okay, bye. And my replay watchers, drop a comment below. Let me know how you feel. Drop like a fire emoji if you felt like you burned a lot in that one there. I will as well catch you guys next week. I hope you enjoy the sun and enjoy the weekend. Bye.